Hi. If you like the show, you can support it by going to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You get cool stuff in return, and you help us, make the show. Yeah, that's all I have to ask. Patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, our monthly episode where we do Q&A. We talk about your responses to this month's games. We do a topic, and we announce 2 months in the future. It's a real grab bag.
It's a real grab bag. It's a fun way to finish out the month. As we start looking at planning for the summer, we just in the green room started talking about laying some stuff out. That'll be fun, but don't get too concerned about the future because right now we have Q&A to do.
It's the present.
Yeah.
Don't live in the future. Contemporize, man.
Yeah.
It is summer. I'm having allergies.
Ooh,
it's
nice.
Now warm outside, and going outside makes me feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah. No, I mowed my lawn yesterday and came indoors. Most of my allergies are ragweed, and that comes a little bit into the summer, which is okay. My tree pollen allergy is not as bad as it has been before, but it's just one of those things you deal with. Allergies change over the course of your life.
Yeah, I didn't used to have them. I developed them like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that sucks.
The human immune system.
Thinking, yeah. Older than Homer now. Guy, I'll get started here with Guy Kelly.
Okay.
Who asks, I've recently been playing Dragon Quest XI because it's basically like getting into a warm bath. I found that when I come across an area with enemies that give loads of XP, such as the metal slimes, I turn the battle settings to auto and run around in circles while the game basically plays itself until I've had my fill of grinding. As I was doing this, I realized that if there was an option to just increase my levels by a certain amount, or an instant have 10,000 XP button, I wouldn't use it. Even though it's basically the same thing, the time invested running around in circles to trigger combat makes it feel like the XP is still earned rather than the game just handling things for me. With this in mind, it got me thinking. Have you come across any quality of life settings / I respect your time sliders that worked particularly well with the type of game they were in, or any that are totally defanged the game and reduced it to an overblown PowerPoint presentation?
Ooh, overblown PowerPoint presentation. That's fun.
Yeah, clicker.
Yeah, I'm partial to Guy's approach to this, honestly. Like, you know, if there was just the pressed have 10,000 XP button, that would feel like it would take a lot away from it for me. I also wouldn't run around and farm like that.
They both feel bad to me.
Yeah.
Like, neither of those out. Like, I don't like the button because it's, you know, when they re-released all the 32-bit Final Fantasies on Steam and they have the cheats, you know, turn off the game cheats.
Right.
Like, I don't think that like, I like that game. I like the story of that game. I'm not interested in just clicking through the combat instantly.
Right.
To get to it. I could read a synopsis or watch a YouTube of it if I was doing that. You know, so neither option sounds good to me, but I also don't want to grind.
Yeah.
I want to get in the exact number of encounters I can tolerate between points of interest.
Yeah, and level up exactly as much as I need to be ready for whatever boss is coming down the way.
So I mean, generally, in terms of other quality of life things that I've run into that I think are good for this, my favorite ones all involve travel.
Yeah.
If you know, it's I could go back to town and sell stuff, or I can just load it onto my torchlight dog, or just, you know, teleport back, or sell at the bonfire.
Yes, or level up at the bonfire. As far as like cheats go, because I would consider cheats and console command stuff to be somewhat part of this, right? Because they can accomplish a lot of the same defanging. I think it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like it would be really hard for me to think of playing The Sims if I was just like in a real, I want to design a cool house mode. Like, yes, there is a way to play the actual life game and get enough money, but like, what if I don't want to do that? What if I just want to build a cool house? Then I get the money.
Don't means test my video game fun.
Please don't.
Yeah. In terms of ones that I feel like they've kind of ruined it, I think that Guy and or we talked about it already. Like, I don't have any interest in doing that, but it's not because I enjoy running around fighting metal slimes. It's just because my least favorite quality of life things tend to be really revealing. Like, they get rid of the game. Yeah. And to me, that doesn't make me dislike that quality of life feature. It usually makes me like the game less.
It makes me notice the problems that the quality of life feature is trying to solve.
Yes.
It really makes them stand out in relief.
Yeah. So, yeah, huge bummer.
Yeah.
To me personally.
Yeah. Julia writes, is there a never made sequel or canceled project you think about every now and then and wish that it had actually come out? Silent Hills aside.
Yeah. The Arcane Ravenholm game.
Yeah. When were they working on that?
That would have been rad. Yeah, working on the Half-Life spinoff.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you said Ravenholm. For some reason, I heard Ravenloft, and I was like, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, breaking into the keep really of Lord rad. Soth. Yeah.
Yeah, and you go through different realms. They have like different physics and shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the level of the carnival, dude.
Yeah. Well, I just pitched something that's we just pitched the best game of all time. So
we did.
We'll pack it up.
Oh, the longer you stay in the carnival, the more you get mutated and change depending on the way that you play. Yeah.
You slowly become a strong man.
Yeah.
Your strength keeps going up, and as there's 1801,
yep,
1802, 1803. Your mustache gets increasingly handlebarred.
Oh, your mustache gets muscles. It does little flexes. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I still occasionally think about StarCraft Ghost, honestly. That'd be that I think that would have been fun. A non-strategy StarCraft game, like set in that world, but with those with those races and technologies and stuff would have been cool. I think.
You know what I played that was similar to that? There's a Command and Conquer for shooter. Shooter.
Command and Conquer Tiberium or something like that? Renegade, there we go, yeah.
I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played that, and it's really interesting because it does look, you're still going through Command and Conquer-ass bases and stuff. Mm-hmm. You're just doing it as a shooter.
No.
So.
Nice.
Yeah. Ludikud, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, let's say you have an unlimited budget for a game project. Well, this is asked and answered in the previous question. What would you focus on? Any ideas that you haven't seen explored in games that you want to realize? One thing I can think of is a game that starts out as a completely normal action game that progressively gets weirder and more surreal. Maybe with stuff just showing up in the background while the rest of the game doesn't acknowledge it.
Make yourself a cursed game.
Yeah, like an E-version.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, I'm pretty attached to the Arcane-esque Ravenholm game or Ravenloft game.
Ravenloft, thank you. Yeah. That would be really good. I think I've talked about before. I also really want X-Men Tactics.
Yeah.
But that's not an idea that hasn't been explored in games. Like that's a game, Ravenloft as a concept has not really been explored in games.
Excuse me, Iron and Blood or whatever.
Well, yeah, Iron and Blood and Strahd's Revenge or whatever. There's a first person one but I would also, I've said this before, this is my canonical answer for this, is that I would like to have a game that simulates being in a band, but more inclusively. Mm-hmm. So not just like band sim where you just like manage the band, but also gamify the process of songwriting, either through like, Lego parts that you put together, or something like that, and kind of does every element of that.
Yeah.
So being in a band is very game-like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be really fun.
Managing bandmate relationships,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. And do it in a real way. Like, I don't want to just have like social links you build up. I don't want to just fill up meters like Persona. Like, I want to, have trade-offs. Like, you can get this guy to drum for your band, but he's, way, 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 way into ayahuasca. And it's like, well, it just means he doesn't show up for some shit. And when he does, sometimes it's horrible.
Yeah.
But he's a really good drummer. Like, you're doing those kind of trade-offs. Not just you ask somebody about their dead parents enough times that they like you.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that I have an answer for this off of the top of my head, so I'm going to say a beard of bees.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
Yeah.
Would you be the beard? Would you be the bees? Would you be the man with the beard?
Would you be the bees with the man?
Yeah, a beard of Buck Bumbles. I want to get a Buck Bumble beard.
Oh shit! There's a bunch of red-winged blackbirds in my backyard, dude, and a squirrel.
Hey.
Oh wow!
Go make yourself a red-winged blackbird beard.
Ooh.
Then you just like remove them and show exposed jaw.
Be like the cover of Shearwater's Rook. Yeah.
Except dead.
James says there's a lot of hubbub going around about Elden Ring. What with the leaked trailer recently, what are you looking forward to the most about it? If you could pick one flaw from previous mainline Souls titles in the past, what would you fix? I have thought so little about Elden Ring. I'm not going to lie to you. I just I've put it in a fridge, and not like in a fridge that I have access to, but like a fridge at the back of the garage with some junk piled on it. Yeah.
Yeah, the garage fridge that always ends up with venison in it for some reason.
It just grows venison spontaneously.
Yeah, just like venison and salmon, like never any conventional meats. Just I don't. Yeah, I have not been thinking about Elden Ring. The speculation around From Software stuff is annoying to me.
Yeah,
because it all changes and we don't know anything.
Yeah,
so there's nothing I'm most looking forward to about it because we don't know anything about it. Like, I'm interested. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah.
But we just don't know anything. If I'm wish casting, I want RPG elements back for them to be really serious.
Yeah.
Because as those games win, they de-emphasize those. I want it to have stats and have stats matter.
Agreed. I want them to head the other way from the difficulty fuck. Yeah. I would like them to add a little bit more kind of variety and texture to the bosses.
Yes. Like, not just, duels with more complicated movesets, but give us weird Demon Souls set piece stuff.
Yeah.
A modern, I would like a From game that has the courage to make a Storm King in it.
Yes.
Which is something I've never, other than the first time, I've never not beat that on the first try. But in terms of presentation and what's actually happening, it's one of the coolest things that's ever been in games.
Yep. God, I can't wait to talk about that on Bonfireside Chat, the new one.
It's way good.
It's so good.
It's so incredible. The rain stops when he goes over you. He blocks the rain. Man. Jason asks, in a bizarre Brewster's Millions situation, Cole is given a blank check by an eccentric billionaire under one condition. He must use it to make a free-to-play mobile gacha game or MMO that Gary would willingly play. What does this project proposal for this hypothetical game look like? Note, you are allowed to tie in other IP.
Make it make like a functional X-Men MMO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minimize grinding, minimize farming, de-emphasize group play, like necessary group play. Yeah, and make it so that it's a Brewster's Millions situation, so I have to spend the money, and it doesn't matter if I gain any money back. In fact, it's bad if I gain any money back. So like, get rid of any of the hooks that are like, okay, and subscribe to this for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You just get 10 billion X gems every day for doing nothing.
Right. And
unlocking all the characters costs like 10 X gems. And you end up with your Brewster's X gems kind of situation.
Yeah. No, that'd probably be it.
Yeah. Just make it as close to a single player game as possible.
Yeah, make it just, like, that's the trick for an MMO or gacha game. And I thought about you could do like a mobile gacha, like the Fire Emblem mobile game. I never played that, but I think that had some tactical stuff built into it. But then what I would do is just de-emphasize the gacha and emphasize the tactical. So
Yeah.
Basically it would be like trying to give a medicine to a cat or a dog. I would
You'd
have
wrap
to
it in a cheese.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would eat it in the cheese.
Yes.
And the cheese would be X-Men Tactics. I would also, like in that scenario, give me a really robust character creator. So I can fulfill my dreams of like coming up with an X-Man that's joining the X-Men.
Yeah.
That would do it.
Not have
like
like a bad one made for you by the game designer, like an X-Men Destiny or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want the 3 idiots to choose from.
No.
Gear asks, I enjoy the Assassin's Creed games mostly as virtual tourism. I got a good laugh at Assassin's Creed Valhalla's portrayal of my hometown of Bergen, Norway, as a polar bear infested land of eternal winter. But they still kind of capture the feeling of what it would look like more than a century ago. Are there any games you think nails their depiction of a real place or completely bungles it? My favorite is the faithful reenactment of Kubakiku in the Yakuza games. I may have mispronounced that wrong. Or mispronounced it correctly, but pronounced it wrong. That had me the feeling I was playing the games when I went there myself.
I have thought it would be cool to go to the district, the Yakuza, the Kawakicho. That would be fun to go there. Having spent so much time in that place. This is hard because I have never really spent a lot of time in places that video games want to emulate. So this is this is tough, and I'm sure Gear probably felt that way about Bergen, Norway. No game will do this, and then until Assassin's Creed kind of did it. So like I really like the like depictions of New York in the Spider-Man game.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah,
Fallout 3 looks a lot like Washington. Like the subways have the same kind of ceilings and stuff.
Yeah.
That did a good job. And then bad job, nothing in Shadowrun has ever presented Seattle as seeming like Seattle. Like Seattle is like San Francisco in terms of hilliness.
Yeah.
And it's all a lot of hills that go down to the wharf down there, this little sound. And it's very, very rare that Shadowrun does anything with that.
Right.
Like they just make it look like a tech noir city.
Yeah.
There's a bad example, but a good example, I'd say like Fallout 3 and 4 do a good job of that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Greg writes, we all have our comfort things: food, music, TV shows, and movies. What are some of your comfort games? For me, I enjoy going back to some of my favorite NES games like Mega Man, Contra, and Super Mario. Also, Stardew Valley and my time at Porsche are very relaxing games to play. And then this is similar to a question that Marcus asked, which is, which games feel like a warm hug to you? I will be honest with you, if I am looking for a way to spend 20 minutes and I don't feel like learning something new, I will just open up Super Mario World on the Nintendo Online on my Switch.
Yeah. I've been poking at a play of that for quite a while.
Yeah.
In a similar thing, like just do a couple exits. For fun. And then now that there's new Isaac content, I've been just having Isaac on in the background while I have videos on in the background, or like watching Venture Brothers commentaries or doing other work.
Yeah.
So just Isaac.
Yeah.
And then Dark Souls 1 always feels like that to me. I have another randomizer playthrough in me just for fun.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, the thing that stopped me from starting it is like kind of want to stream it, and then I'm like, but I like
But streaming,
it's gonna feel like a task I don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's gonna feel like an obligation, and I don't want any more obligations.
I have so many.
Yeah, well, and like the quest of my life is to try to get as few as possible, right? Like he who dies with the least obligations gets to live in the Grand Mausoleum of Nick Cage.
Yep.
Nolans. So those are my answers.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. Super Mario World, Mega Man X. Just stuff.
Yeah,
stuff from being a kid.
Yeah, good answers.
Yeah.
Christopher asks, having recently started playing La Mulana and replaying Myst, puzzles have been on my mind. What are some of your top puzzly games, regardless of being point and click, platformers, horror, etc.? Best puzzle games.
I mean, Riven. Like, that's hard to beat.
My all-time favorite, I've been thinking about this a lot because we've been having puzzles a lot in the zone. And I've decided that my all-time favorite puzzle game is Portal.
Yeah.
I don't think that it ever gets better than Portal. That is how I like to think about, like, I get those aha moments, but it's also like pleasingly tactile.
Yeah.
It's like intuitive, like you feel smart, but you also, it's like you knew it your whole life. How it works. I don't think it gets better than Portal.
Yeah.
For me. It makes me wish that we didn't do Portal 1 and 2 as an episode, so we could have done Portal 1 and then Portal 2 like a few years later.
We didn't know what we were doing back then.
Yeah, idiots.
One of my favorites, Return of the Obra Dinn as well. Like that is a different kind of puzzle kind of deal that we just found recently that I was just over the moon about. Yeah.
That's a really great game.
Yeah.
I like the Professor Layton games a lot, even though they're like super modal, but those are really fun for what they are.
Yeah.
Like, I just like, here's some, junior jumbles. Like here's some just, book of puzzles for you.
Yeah.
With kind of a cute story and relaxing music around it. And it's like, I like self-contained puzzles like that.
Yeah.
I like all flavors of puzzles, but I also like that kind of puzzle.
As far as like point and click adventure games that are now kind of the classic LucasArts canon kind of deal, big fan of the games that Amanita makes. So Machinarium, what's Botanicula, things like that. Machinarium most specifically.
Yeah. And I'll throw out a shout out to something that I always forget that I went real deep on. Big shout out to Puzzle Agent.
Oh yeah.
Those games were cool.
Similar to the Professor Layton. Yeah.
Like Layton through a weird kind of like more humorous lens.
Yeah.
A less polite lens.
Yeah. Nick writes, what are some of your favorite card-based video games? Slay the Spire is very recent, and the Pokemon trading card game on the Game Boy was a game that I really enjoyed when I was younger. Pokemon, the card game, is really hard to beat, actually, for me.
I gotta throw that on the schedule as a vanity pick at some point.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But I like all of these.
Yeah.
Like Slay the Spire is great. Monster Train, great.
Yeah.
This is just a good genre to me.
Yeah. I'm probably slightly less into it. Like Slay the Spire doesn't really engage me too terribly much. But Monster Train is freaking great. Yeah. I need to play that new clan.
I've only poked at it a little bit. It's cool. It's really cool. I just got distracted by work. Also, a big shout out to the Microprose Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah.
Chandelar game from 1996. That game is great. And there's like a 2010 update or 2013 update that has new cards and stuff.
Oh, nice.
That is easy to Google.
Neat.
Kale asks, not sure if this is meaty enough for a topic, but I'm wondering what your opinions are on timed exclusives. I honestly didn't even know they were a thing until I found I wouldn't be able to buy Hitman 3 on Steam until 2022, since Epic paid for the exclusive rights for the first year.
I get increasingly annoyed with them, but not like in a mad about consumer rights kind of way, I guess. Like, that's dumb. I don't like things that happen purely for business reasons,
Yeah.
But like,
it's so transparent.
Yeah.
Like, sell this to me. Why is this better for me, Gary?
Yeah. I kind of don't care what's best for you, especially if you are sufficiently big that this isn't like life or death for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There was annoying, when I decided to buy Hitman 3, it was annoying that I couldn't buy it on Steam. And then when I tried to do the save transfer thing, it just wouldn't go through. And I got impatient and said, you know what, fuck it.
I like those levels. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love those levels, and I'll just go, if I really want to play them in the Hitman 3 engine, I'll buy them again, or I will not and just go back to my Hitman 2, executable or whatever. It bugged me that it was so annoying, but just enough to where like, I didn't do, I, in some ways, I think I'm the target market for it because I just threw up my hands and gave them money anyway.
Yep.
I was just like, this sucks. Like, just let me play the fucking game. And I didn't have a principled stance on it. I was just annoyed into compliance.
Yeah.
With that. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't feel good. I think it sucks.
Yeah.
Do not like them.
I don't like it, but unless there is something that physically stops me from playing the game, then it probably won't stop me for, I will not take a stand against, throwing money at it and rewarding it. So I guess that means I don't want it to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's something I think about a lot in terms of like important and unimportant things is like, talk a lot on the network about Lord's Prayer shit, like knowing what you can control. And we talk about like things being in the water and stuff.
That's not the Lord's Prayer. That's the Serenity Prayer.
The Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
But I think a lot about like what value is there in me being angry about the stuff I can't change.
Yeah.
And the answer is none. Mm-hmm. I just like, I can be miserable.
Yeah.
It's David Foster Wallace. Like, you get to choose what to think about stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel like I'm big enough to stop Epic from doing this horse shit. Mm-hmm. I could be, a tiny drop in the bucket of resistance of it, mm-hmm. or I could think about other stuff with my life and then slowly march towards the grave.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not be like, I don't enjoy being mad. Mm-hmm. I'd rather not be mad while I'm doing it. So I just kind of let it go. Like, it sucks, but I still played Hitman 3 and it was great. And now I've moved on.
Happiness is not a choice, but being slightly less miserable about a particular thing is.
Anger is often a choice, not always. And I'm not, and boy, before anybody like yells at me, like, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you should not be angry about like, Derek Chauvin and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that. Mm-hmm. I am angry about that shit too, and also have some limited degree of control over it. Mm-hmm. But stuff like clicking additional buttons to play Hitman 3.
I think it's a video game. It's not police brutality. Like, I reserve the right to be irrationally angry about what the state is doing to its citizens,
Yes, but I don't reserve all equal rights for all things being equal. Right. Like I don't want to be as angry about Epic exclusives, and I'd rather just round down to not angry at all. Really, like, it sucks, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I know. Like, hang out, vibe,
vibe. Play the. I mean, play the thing I want to play. Like,
Hitman 3's still real good.
Yeah. Let's see here. I want to get to a couple of the game questions from this month. So I'm going to continue. Jordan writes, as AAA games become more and more disastrous as time goes on, I often see a game's downfall being relegated to feature bloat. Games with perfectly good primary and secondary mechanics are constantly inflated to give players the most bang for their buck with dozens of vestigial minigames and side quests. Do you feel that this is becoming a defining death knell of modern gaming, or has it existed since the beginning and, like most things, remain dependent on the design team of games? I don't think a death knell exists. I think that all that exists is an anti-pattern that eventually will be corrected away from.
Yeah, if it's not what death knell is shorthand for here is, like, instead of this specific like features creep, I would tie this into like budget stuff. We talk about like risk aversion that comes with increasing budgets, and then that and having the increasing blood cost. In people and in terms of human happiness, and then treating that as the only way that games can be made. Mm-hmm. This is a coincidence with that. Like, this happens along with that, but it's not caused by it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. And I think in terms of like whether this is just kind of been around and everything, it's very genre dependent.
Yeah.
Like, it's worse now that every game is kind of an action RPG.
Yes.
Because then, once you start blending genres, it's like you can throw in a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. So it to me, I think of it as more like it has gotten worse and it is dependent, but it's not a death knell other than when it is comorbid with every game has to cost, so many billions of dollars and so much blood. Yeah. And families.
Always the families.
Yep. Families suffer first.
Yeah.
Well, second. Families suffer second.
Yeah.
Uncle Gary's family feed bag.
Look at all the crap on the walls.
Yeah. Now I've seen everything. Interparty conflict has two variations of the same question. We can answer one or both if we'd like. Thank you. Question 1, or version 1 here. If you could have a tycoon/simulator/mama game based on any job or trade, what job or trade would you play as? And then 2, if someone made a podcasting tycoon simulator mama game. I don't know what a mama game is.
Cooking mama, baby mama.
Oh, gotcha. Is baby mama a game?
You know what?
Kind of a slur.
There is one. You know, I realized that would be insensitive the moment that I said it. There is a mama game that is about raising a kid.
Like mama.
Mama. That's the one that came with the baby doll that you put the Wii remote into.
Mother tycoon.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding tycoon.
Lactation tycoon.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I can't wait to download Doula Tycoon on my DSiWare.
Oh man, it's funny because like the tycoon simulator /mama game, I never realize like which one of those will be good or interesting until somebody just kind of like makes it, you know, or even just like announces it. Like there's one coming out that I'm going to give a little bit of free hype to because I'm excited about it, and it looks really good. But it's called Definitely Not Fried Chicken, which is it basically has you running Pollos Hermanos from Breaking Bad, where you run a fast food empire that is a front for a drug empire, and you have to manage both of them.
That's neat.
That's going to be coming out later this year. I've not played it, but like shit, I would not have thought to ask for that, but that is a really good idea, actually.
That is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second question is easier to answer. I don't really want a podcasting tycoon game. I think that'd be annoying.
Like for it to be a tycoon game, you would have to like, I don't know, it'd be like running Gimlet, and like, which I don't want to do. Like, manage your relationship with 4 different mattress companies.
It would 100% be that. And then it would also be like the game version of all those articles about like everybody's getting into podcasting and making $1 billion. This New York socialite, you know, tried it and couldn't do it. And it's just, well, because like to me, podcasting is so much about the content, which is a hard thing to tycoonify.
Yeah. Content and personality. How do you gamify personality in a meaningful way that is related to what people say, you know?
Yeah. In terms of what is a hole in the market for this stuff, as of just, you know, a few years ago, I would have just said Thief Simulator, because that did a lot of work for me. Like, I would like a better, higher budget version of that.
Yes.
Where you are managing like a little crime empire, but also doing hands-on stuff when you wanted to. Because B&E and crimes, always interesting to me. I love casing a joint.
Yeah, they're fun. Yeah. And we recommend you do them.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's fun.
And rewarding. Yeah.
Super rewarding.
Colin asks, as someone who thinks of video games as a hobby as opposed to just something I do to pass the time, I often think about my gaming, quote, diet, and I try to make sure it is as balanced and to make sure that it is balanced and interesting. I make a point to add variety to the games that I'm playing and try to play a good balance of games, not just the stuff I love, but also stuff that does different, important, or interesting stuff with the medium. Seeing how you two play them for a living, what advice would you give to people who want to continue to expand their understanding and critical eye toward video games? Play along with WAF, dude.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the best advice I can give.
I feel like I'm actually a little worse at this now that I do this for a living.
Yeah,
because so much of what I'm playing is dictated by just what's work, and that's not bad. I have the best job in the world. Like, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that like I spend less time trying to be balanced because, you know, whatever I'm playing for work, even if it is super fun, necessarily is kind of feels like work. And then whatever I am doing off of that time, I just give myself whatever I want, like I'm in an airport.
Yeah.
I don't worry about a balanced diet. It's like my day job is the balanced diet. And then in my off hours, like anything that sounds good is good,
Yeah.
and I'll just take it. So, that said, like with the stuff we do for the show, we do try to cover a variety of things. That's part of the intent. And if I were just not a non-podcasting American and was trying to do that, I would follow creators such as our podcast or such as like YouTubers. Aaron Signal does these Blips episodes where he covers like 5 or 6 like interesting indie games that have something interesting about them. I'd follow people on YouTube and Twitter and podcast and just see if anything strikes your fancy.
Yeah.
General Duckfeed advice of like, you don't have to force it. If something just doesn't seem cool to you, you don't have to play it because you feel like you should.
Yeah.
You can find something that's a vegetable that sounds cool to you.
Yes. That's what I'd recommend. Don't if you ever find yourself forcing it, stop, because that's gonna sour you on games in general, probably. Yeah,
I know. I mean, and philosophies vary on that. Like every time we say that in this, there's a discussion in the Slack about the virtues of forcing it. Just for me, like that has never worked.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm put on this earth to do.
Right. Yeah.
Do we want to move on to other questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Other types. Let's move on to media questions here. Gregory says, I was interested to hear what you guys had to say about Buffy the Vampire Slayer when you recently covered the Game Boy Color game in a recent podcast. With all due respect, I have to disagree that someone who didn't watch the show then can't enjoy it now. I also missed the show during its original run and ended up binging it on a streaming service about 5 years ago, and I really enjoyed it and thought it held up very well. However, I can't say the same for a lot of 70s and 80s TV shows I watched growing up. Are there any TV shows you did not watch when they first came out, but you've since watched and really enjoyed? And conversely, any that you tried to go back to and found them very hard to stomach in 2021?
That's tough, because usually it's not much more than a decade after a show launches that I've like started to watch it. So like I first watched The Wire in like 2013 or so, you know, and didn't really have an awful lot of like experience with the procedural shows that it was kind of like riffing on, but like saying, being a guy and saying, oh, I watched The Wire doesn't feel like it's in the spirit of this question.
Well, this is the weird time compression that's going on where The Wire still feels recent.
Yeah.
For some reason, even though it's like 15 years old or what have you, like the golden age of TV compresses together.
It does. Yeah.
For me at least. And there's so much of it that I haven't watched. So like if I ever watched Mad Men, it would be this, even though it's not, it doesn't feel old.
Right.
Like it is old. I don't like my actual answer for this is I don't watch tons of TV, not a flex. It's just true. So there's, not I don't have a good answer for this.
Yeah.
For the first part of it, for going back to stuff that I used to watch, like, oh, absolutely. Nothing I liked as a kid stands up. Like all the cartoons I liked as a kid were all just designed to sell me toys and are just absolute trash. Like,
formulaic garbage.
Yeah, formulaic garbage that is like sometimes nostalgic. Like I can watch an episode of Ninja Turtles and laugh at how ridiculous it is. But I don't, it's hard for me to understand what I was getting out of it as a kid, because it wasn't that it was ridiculous. It was that like, man, this is fucking badass. Like they just ordered a pizza.
Each of them has a different weapon.
Oh my God. And now they're getting in a car. Like, I don't know what I was thinking as a kid. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in my brain as a 10-year-old, like watching Ninja Turtles so I could understand what emotions I was having. Because I do not understand that.
Yeah. Most of my TV time I spend watching old, by old cartoons, I mean, cartoons that came out, it's either like The Simpsons or around 2000, and for, just rewatch King of the Hill and Bob's Burgers just over and over in sequence for a decade now, probably. But, something that I can't really go back to or have no desire to. I feel like I've seen enough Futurama, actually.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get stones hucked at me for saying that. That feels weird. Like I have had a ton of affection for that show. I like characters and stuff from that show, but like that feels weirdly dated now. in a huge way to me.
Not just in terms of solidarity, but like I'm with you on that. It's not because I love getting stoned and I want people to throw stones at me.
Yeah.
You know, please throw stones at me. It's because I felt that even like I never went as deep on that show. It has never felt like in the same league as Simpsons or King of the Hill to me.
Right.
Like it's good jokey jokes, but I don't like the characters as much. You know, yeah, I just never quite liked it as much.
Episodes feel gimmicky and also are like weirdly tied to the pop culture and like just things that were going on at the time, which is what sci-fi does, right? You know, oftentimes it comments on contemporary things, but like, and people are going to say, oh, this doesn't count because it's like from the, you know, when they brought it back on Comedy Central, but like the episode that was just literally like, oh, there's a new phone out. It's called the iPhone and they put it in your eye. And here's our Steve Jobs parody, you know, and we're just going to make a bunch of jokes about Apple users and Apple, you know, stores and stuff. And like, that's super dated. Like, why is that happening in the year 3000 or so? Like,
well, and the thing is, like, more modern Simpsons does that kind of shit, but classic Simpsons didn't.
Yeah.
You know, it does feel like it is, you know, it got a later start, literally, and I think you can kind of feel it.
Yeah.
You know, like the early seasons have that growing pains section, and then by the time it hit stride, like there are a couple of really good seasons of it, and then it kind of moves into that stuff quicker, you know, because it was in the water, like moves into that kind of dated parody shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know that I've got like another episode 1 to series finale watch of Futurama in me.
Yeah, I'm basically good.
Yeah,
with that stuff. So yeah, and to clarify the thing about Buffy, just real quick, part of it was like it wasn't so much that you couldn't get into it older; it's that everything has kind of moved on from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's more that people like, I know people who are like, yeah, it just kind of ends. Then you have to read the comics. And I know a lot of stuff about Joss Whedon being a heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you know, it's not like I couldn't just watch it, but it like the comparison I would make and what I was trying to express in that episode is like my attitude towards Lost now, which I didn't watch at the time. I wasn't caught up in the cultural zeitgeist, and now the tide has kind of turned against it. It doesn't mean that I couldn't watch it and enjoy it, but it feels like there's less reason to because everyone has kind of moved on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. This is going to be me, I think. Yeah. Joshua writes, here's a bit of a softball, but what cheesy or quote bad movies do you guys unironically love? Big Trouble in Little China is my all-time favorite movie because it feels like a warm blanket, and I can literally watch it anytime I want to feel better. It's cheesy, the characters are charming, and no one, even the villains, takes themselves very seriously. Do either of you have a go-to comfort movie?
Yeah, tons.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, man. Like I consider that to be a good. I consider that a good movie. That's not like cheesy, but it's a comfort movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Like I watched Beetlejuice on Halloween this year. Beetlejuice is great.
Wonderful.
I'll watch that anytime.
Yeah.
Those aren't considered bad, but like cheesy, you know. In terms of what like considered bad, like I love Cabin Boy.
Oh yeah.
Before. I'm not alone in that. Like lots of people love Cabin Boy, but I love Cabin Boy.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
I go to bat for Tommy Boy. Just 90s movies with boys in the name. Huge
Any
nostalgic
boys.
value. I think Chris Farley is a
Danny
Chris Farley is an unparalleled comedic genius. Yeah. I'll tell you what movie I like. Dirty Work.
Oh, interesting. I watched Dirty Work during my like summer of Norm Macdonald before I saw him live.
Oh yeah.
And there are some like good jokes in that, but he's weird. He's a weird actor.
Yeah, he really is.
He doesn't really know how to be an actor.
Nope.
You know?
Oh my God.
At his peak.
There are prostitutes in all these car trunks.
Yeah. Yeah. At his peak, one of the funniest people ever to be, but boy, it's a weird fucking movie.
It is.
Yeah. There are tons of stuff like that. Like I love any of the 80s or early 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies.
Yeah.
Are like that for me. Like if I still watch broadcast TV, I can't imagine not stopping and just finishing Total Recall if it popped on.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, like Total Recall's awesome. Running Man, Terminator 2, those are all very good.
Yeah.
To me.
And for like cheesy stuff, I don't know. We will always go to bat for Stuart Gordon on this network. So
yeah, which is cheesy as hell, but also like rad as hell.
yeah,
So lots of stuff like that. And then but bad Cabin Boy is always my answer because people didn't like that for some reason.
Yeah, Tommy Boy for me.
Was Tommy Boy considered bad?
Yeah, it was just kind of considered to be a mediocre road comedy. Yeah. It did not get a good it got a bad critical reception, and like it was considered to be so low that like Rob Lowe didn't want his name on it. So even though he is the villain in that, this is not Rob Lowe at his height either.
Yeah. That's what I was just about to say. Like this is Wayne's World Rob Lowe.
Yeah. So even though he's the villain, he's uncredited.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's very funny. I also, for a second, when you said Rob Lowe, my brain inserted Rob Schneider.
Ooh.
And it sounded like you're saying it was so bad that Rob Schneider didn't want his name on it. And I was like dissociated for a second.
Rob Schneider of the Hot Chick?
Yeah, he's just like, I can't do this, man. Like, Bo asks, I contribute and work as an editor at my university's cultural criticism journal, and a sizable portion of what we consider when selecting papers for publication is both the technical literacy of our non-academic audience, as well as the niche interest some authors write on that may alienate an unengaged readership due to reader unfamiliarity. Doubly difficult when you're selecting for a bilingual student body. As critics yourselves, how do you balance the tightrope between what you feel you can reasonably cover and in what scholastic degree, as far as utilizing critical terminology with or without citation and further expounding, without fear of losing some listeners to incomprehension or misunderstanding? It hasn't come up.
No.
I don't... You have us confused with the game studies buddies.
Yeah. We occasionally get questions that ask about that imply that we have a certain amount of academic or scholastic rigor that we absolutely do not have. Not that I'm annoyed at it. It's actually kind of flattering that somebody thinks that we are serious, that we are serious men.
Yeah.
But yeah, this kind of doesn't apply, and I'm not necessarily that worried about alienating people. My guide is just kind of always and generally, I don't know, like, would I understand this if I listened to it?
Yeah, gut.
It's good. Yeah, it's a gut thing. And as far as like academic terminology, it's not like we make up every one of our terms of art that we use. We often borrow, and, even just like repurpose, a Simpsons reference to describe a particular phenomenon. It's often just in comparison to another work, is what it is. And, if something is obscure enough, we often explain the reference so that we can kind of bring, I think, each other along more than anything, because like, I think that we both try to keep each other honest when it comes to, making sure that what we say makes sense. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We are flying by gut, but we both keep at least a corner of our eye on the fact that somebody will listen to this.
Yeah.
This is not, I'm not trying to like, we're just dumb idiots. Like, I think that we're good critics and smart, but a lot of it comes from kind of instinctual rather than theory.
It's not formal.
And yeah, like we're middlebrow critics.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to live in that sphere.
Yeah.
The world already has a game studies buddies. Let those guys be the game studies buddies. I don't want to read those books. So we don't think about balancing this too much.
Yeah.
Not to give an unsatisfying answer. It's just true.
Just true.
This one's a quick one. Do you want to do Jared real quick before we move on?
Jared writes, I recently listened to the Mega Man X revisit episode, an excellent episode. You mentioned doing a couple of other revisits, specifically Bloodlines and Super Mario World. Have you two thought more about this? It makes sense not to redo them with so many games out there and the boom of patron demands. Just curious to hear a little inside scoop on this.
I would love to. It's just hard to justify because of those things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like patron demands and the fact that there's a lot of games.
My dance card is very full.
Yeah. I would love to do it.
Yeah.
So if we ever get to that point where it just doesn't feel like And there is unlimited stuff to cover and more stuff comes out. But if it ever feels like we could fit it into the schedule,
Yeah.
like I would like to do that. You know, and in terms of other stuff that like, it's really hard to think of stuff from the first couple of years that I don't think would benefit from a revisit.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff that I'm not like excited to revisit, you know, but like I would be really interested to see what like a Zombies Ate My Neighbors episode looked like now.
Same.
You know, or something like that. So if, you know, the inside scoop on that is always that like, it would be fun to start a second podcast that's like WAF Classics if we didn't already do all the podcasts we do.
Yeah.
You know, and in terms of like thinking, I have definitely thought before, like, oh, would it be smarter either strategically or in terms of happiness to jettison a bunch of the shows on the network and just concentrate, you know, because other people do a show you know, a lot of the times. And we had a lot of stuff we wanted to do and we didn't know how to add value to the Patreon other than adding new shows for a long time. And, you know, spare time was a different value proposition, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You know, and the answer to what I think about that is like maybe someday, but right now I really like that there's space for, you know, Agape in the network because that has a small and dedicated audience of weirdos and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
You know, even if it is a time cost.
Yeah. You've summarized my thoughts as well.
Yeah. A couple life questions.
Yeah.
Here. I'm going to actually skip one and go to the second one here.
Okay.
Holland says, what would you consider a more grievous assault against you? A, someone writing a globally successful fiction series, think Harry Potter level, in which they name the most heinous, universally hated character after you. Or B, someone creating, paying for the production and resultant ecological blowback, an NFT of a screenshot of every social media post you make on any platform, business or recreational for the rest of your life. B.
Yeah.
Like I could be I could be a Voldemort.
Yeah, that'd be fine. The most annoying part of that would be SEO, but like whatever.
Yeah. I could handle, you know, girls with glasses throwing buckets of blood on me if they saw me in public.
You might learn to like it. Maybe a little too much.
Yeah, free blood. You know, and then the difference between those two things is one of those just puts the burden on me, and the other one puts the burden on the environment. And kind of ontological reality, like an NFT is a crime against the concept of being.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I have not gotten less confused, frustrated, and angry about NFTs since I learned about them. Usually, my arc is, you know, kind of there's a peak once I've internalized a concept, and the longer it goes on, like, you know, like, no, Tenacious D's selling NFTs. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you buying? What are they selling?
The answer is nothing. It's a link that nobody can control. It's really, really dumb. And it's bad for the environment. It's bad for art. And you know,
I would feel terrible if somebody thought, you know, okay, so they create an NFT of a screenshot of everything that I do. I feel terrible if somebody spent money on something that like was derived from a thing that I made and they thought the money was going to me, but it went to some asshole.
Sure.
Not like
or
because I want the
be
money
like
to
a big
go
investment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it would burn down a square acre of the rainforest in order to like save, you know, took a dump. You know, or whatever. Like not that that's why I tweet, but just like, you know, nonsense. You know, I'm mad about Yoko Taro. And then somebody pays tons of money for that. And also, you know, none of that sounds good. So something I think a lot about with money in terms is that sometimes it's not the price that somebody pays for something. It's just that it was sold for something. Yeah. You know, that somebody did. You know, so like learning about the existence of luxury goods will sometimes upset me. Yes. Even if nobody I know bought them, or if, you know, just like, oh, wow, that exists for sale. Somebody has bought it at that price. That's gross. And will make me feel very queasy. And B would make me feel it all the time.
Yes. Yeah, definitely B. I could adjust to A.
I might welcome A.
Yeah.
Like, sincerely, like that might be good for the podcast. You know, like big heel turn, like, hey, don't say my name. You know, Harry Potter, I'm gonna eat your bones. You know, whatever Voldemort says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a final life question here. Eric writes, thank you for the local food suggestions. The lilting Mr. Fisher's potato chip monster is my new favorite thing. Is his hat a tiny box? This is referencing the last dispatch where we talked about local snack foods and stuff like that. Eric continues, I've used your suggestions as reasons to travel after Portland Retro Games Expo. I've gone ghost golfing, and you were both correct about haunted houses being the best. Do you have any local suggestions for things to do? Cole, what's in the greater Ohio area?
I don't have anything new to suggest in Portland or PRG because of pandemics.
Right.
Nothing's been going on.
Right.
So nothing is opening up that I know of. I mean, it might be, but I'm not going to it.
Yeah. In the greater Ohio area, the one thing that I will always go to bat for is the Ohio State Reformatory. OSR fucking rules, and you should go there and see it. You know, even if you're not like a big Shawshank fan or whatever, it's just a real cool, huge old Gothic castle that has like sweet decaying jail cells in it and stuff. And you know,
what if I'm just a fan of human misery?
Yeah, what if you're a fan of human misery? What if you want to see the whole? You know? Yeah, OSR.
I would like to see the whole.
Go see it.
I would do that. One of the things once everything reopens is I want to make a trip out to the Midwest on a vacation of sorts. For a couple things. Like one, I would visit my hometown and stuff.
Of course.
It'd be cool to do OSR, but I also want to visit Townsend's.
Oh yeah,
the tavern, the Nutmeg Tavern.
Of course.
That would be a really fun trip to me. Like Gothic prison, Nutmeg Tavern.
I could swing over there. I could Townsend's would be like a one tank trip for me.
Yeah. Well, if I ever plan that, I'll let you know because that'd be fun. It'd be good times.
Good times.
Just like you and I just drinking nutmeg ale, eating nutmeg encrusted salmon or whatever. Having a guy in an apron explain things to us.
Love it.
Yeah. Ooh, baby. Let's lightning round.
Lightning round, baby.
Ben asks, do you have any go-to appearance choices in games with a character creator?
Me, but thinner.
Me, but fatter. I will always make a character as fat as possible.
Yeah.
If possible.
Yeah.
But I do try to make a version of me.
Yeah.
Which does mean I'm just kind of like bearded white guy, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay. A lot of times in games like that, you don't really even see your character that much. So
I've said this before, but I have a different gamer psychographic than a lot of people who I know, where I don't care that much about fashion in games.
Right.
Character creators are not as fun to me, and I don't care about what my character's wearing as nearly as much as most people I know.
Yeah.
I don't see the self. I wear jeans and a t-shirt or sleep pants and a t-shirt most of the time. I do not see fashion as self-expression the same way a lot of people who I know do.
Yeah. This is more of a kind of a PSA thing, but Joseph asks, how can I join the Slack? I hear you guys talk about it on episodes, and I figured it was a message board or group chat type thing, and I would love to join. We don't talk about like how this works enough. When you become a patron, you can follow a link on that's like a pinned post at the top where you can just join it yourself if you are a patron. So it is just a pinned post at the top of our post page to join the chat room. Tons of channels, tons of good people.
Yeah, it's a really good time. You should join if you haven't.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's friendly. There's an introduce yourself channel, which is a good first stop, and everyone will say hi, and then you join other channels.
Yeah.
Chris asks, have you thought about doing a Metroidvania month? We don't really do theme months anymore. I have had a hankering for a Metroidvania for a while. Just recently, since we started doing vanity picks this year, which we talked about in dispatches, there's a tab on that spreadsheet, which is like stuff we want to add to the schedule. And I'm rubbing my hands together to insert Zero Mission and do a slot at some point because I'm due for a replay and it's good.
Zero Mission is really, really good.
Oh.
Yeah. We did kind of do a Metroidvania month. I'm looking, but like there was that month that we did Axiom Verge and Valdis Story. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the premium that month? That might have been.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that was the Ocarina of Time, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Non Metroidvania. Yeah, I like a Metroidvania though, and it's been a minute
Yes.
since I played it. We also have all of those Castlevanias to do. We did Order of Ecclesia, but it's not like we couldn't do Dawn of Sorrow or what have you
Yeah.
at any point. And I would be down for that whenever. Like the only difficulty is those aren't like super short games. They're not super long, but they're not super short.
Yeah.
Those ones. So
Related to this, Marcus asks, what is a month theme that you've always wanted to do but haven't been able to? It's weird that we got both of these in the same in the same app.
it's like things that stuck to the bottom of the suggestion box.
Oh,
Like we haven't been doing theme months for 2 years.
yeah.
And it's like we just shook these out.
Yeah. I mean, this is not specific, but like one of those that I really liked was like Desperation Month or what have you, where we did Frostpunk and Stalker and all of that. Like, not so much
Papers, Please.
Yeah,
That month too, yeah.
yeah. Not so much like a straight up genre, because I think that leads to monotony, but like picking a particular feeling and then finding the games that work around that.
Yeah.
That-
Is there a feeling that you'd want to pick that we haven't done?
Sleepiness. No, I don't know. I don't have an answer on top of that. So
Yeah, I don't think I have one that we didn't do. I think
Yeah.
part of the reason why we retired the theme month was because genre sameness, and then when we did the things that went outside of that, like I was very proud of like how we handled Mech Month,
yeah,
because it was
Jumping
unusual.
Flash. Yeah,
Yeah. But at the same time, like I don't want to necessarily give myself that exercise.
right.
There's no theme that I was like, oh man, I wish we'd done that theme.
Yeah.
Adam says, hey guys, quick question. Did you know that Will Hughes got 780 verbal and 730 math on his SATs?
I did.
Yeah. We do.
We do.
We know it, and now you do too.
Yeah. He's a smart good boy.
If those numbers mean that, I don't know what they mean.
I think
I just assume. I assume it's out of 1,000, so it's not great. But
yep, it's out of 1,000.
like a C plus and a C minus is what he's bragging about.
Yeah, fully awe're Yeah.
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 But,
I still
those are meaningless numbers, and that's a meaningless acronym. Like,
yeah.
we're all adults now. We can move past this shit.
I still sometimes get a little bit frustrated about how little that mattered after it was sold to me.
You were lied to, man.
Yeah.
Like you were lied to, and continuing to uphold that lie for future generations is you paying it forward. Like, don't do it. Don't succumb.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Randall asks, either of you all interested in playing the new Disco Elysium Final Cut Edition? There's been massive changes to the voiceover. Shit, yeah, dude.
Yeah, of course. I just have not had it in me to replay.
Yep.
Because of work stuff and because of, depression and life and all those things. But I definitely want to play that on my Switch. I think that would be like a great Switch game, like a chapter of a book before bed.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm going to do a couple quest lines before bed, and that rhythm would it's like when I was playing Divinity Original Sin 2, and I'm like, I'm going to do 3 battles before bed.
Yeah.
Where however those space out. And that just, my friend Derek is playing it, and he just failed the check where he ended up saying something racist to Kim, and he just was devastated. Like he texted me.
No.
He's like, man, why did I do that? And I'm like, I know, man, it sucks. Go apologize.
I was just like, I just put in like Disco Elysium quote last night as I was going to bed. Just like, I just feel like reading some good prose. Like, let's see what people highlight. Man, Kim is such a good character. Like that
Kim's
line,
great.
that line where he says, this place has been failed by every single government and by every single ideology, and that's great because it means it belongs to all of us.
Yeah.
It's like so good.
The game of the year, like 3 years running.
Oh yeah.
Like people who were like, oh yeah, Hades was the best game of 2020.
No, fuck you.
Disco Elysium still.
Yeah.
It was still Disco Elysium, unfortunately. Hades was fun, but
I'm happy to inform you that Disco Elysium still slaps.
yeah, it was Resident Evil 4 up until it was Disco Elysium, or Resident Evil 4 until it was Dark Souls, then it was Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
Mark asks, did either of you guys get a chance to play the Resident Evil Village demo during the 24-hour window? Thoughts? I did not. Did you play it?
No. I would have wanted to stream it, but I think I was streaming Pathologic that night. And then I missed it because a 24-hour window for a demo is super dumb.
It's super dumb.
Also, that game is coming out in like a day. So
For games I know I'm going to play,
yeah.
I tend not to get too hyped for demos.
Yeah.
I'll just play it. And they kind of bit me with Resident Evil 7 because the demo was different.
Right.
But I'm willing to take that risk.
Yeah. The nice part about that demo was it was like a year before it came out. So I was like genuinely excited because it was the only case I was going to get for a while. But yeah. Let's see. Chris says, what is the best, funniest, or bleakest example of environmental storytelling you've encountered in real life?
Ooh. There's lots of like half full condoms that I'll find, from time to time.
Mine is kind of related to that. It was like, somewhere in Pennsylvania, like Harrisburg or something like that. We were on our way over to the coast. My brother and I stopped at a hotel and we walked across like to a drugstore to pick up some stuff for the room. And like on one of the, just islands in the parking lot, where the like grass by a tree, there was not only the full condom laying in the grass, but there was a small little grass fire lit because somebody threw their cigarette out.
Oh,
so like the orgone was still fresh in the air because whoever fucked there threw their cigarette there just recently enough that the fire was still lit.
You could have got some free DNA, man.
I know. What a fool I am. Did you say viable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leaving money on the table, Ross.
Fucking yuck, dude.
Leaving money shot on the table shot. Yeah, it's that's the thing that first pops to mind, but I'm sure I've seen some graffiti that was, very bleak as well. That's not popping to mind right now.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. There's really funny. There's like kids who draw on sidewalk chalk in my neighborhood because I live in a very like family-y neighborhood now. And somebody just drew a really, really, really cute picture with a logo that just says Nutria Rat and a picture of a Nutria Rat. And I'm really in love with it right now.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, hell yeah, Nutria Rats.
Nutria.
And then yesterday I saw a couple Nutria Rats on a walk and I'm like,
ooh,
fuck yeah, brothers.
I didn't know they were out there. I thought that was like a New Orleans, like Southeast kind of thing.
They could have been incredibly small beavers.
Okay.
Or badgers or something, but I think they were Nutria Rats.
Yeah. Nutria are adorable. Yeah.
They're amazing. Got a double header here from Cinder Elf, who asked, out of all the Jim Henson related media, from Sesame Street to the Dark Crystal, which are your favorite Muppets?
Beaker and Beaker.
Okay. I'm going to say, it's impossible for me not to pick something from Labyrinth. Probably.
Yeah.
I might end up saying I love Ludo. I love Sir Didymus. High quality Muppets.
Yeah. No. Nope. I just love the unrestrained panic and anxiety that Beaker embodies. Yeah.
Beaker is a slave. I don't think Beaker is there by choice.
He's just constantly every is help me.
Yeah. Yeah, does Beaker seem like he wants to be there at all?
No.
And does Bunsen seem like he cares? Like it's pretty dark. I think about the Doozers a lot as well.
Oh yeah, Doozers are good.
Yeah. So those guys. What is our second Cinder favorite here?
I've been on a bit of an old movie kick lately. What is your favorite movie from each decade, or just one that you really like? From each decade, running a whole list of decades, like going back super early, is probably not something I can do. But like,
where do you want to start?
70s.
Okay.
Yeah. 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers for me.
Oh, that's a really good answer. Boy, yeah, I don't know why this is incredibly difficult for me to think of a 70s movie. They really like. I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to go to the 80s, and I'm going to say The Thing.
Shit, mine would be The Thing too. If I started in the 60s, I would say The Wicker Man. But
yeah, Wicker Man's a really good answer. When did The Third Man come out?
Third Man would have been 60s, I think, 60s. Right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that movie a lot. 90, boy, because it's hard because like actual, like cool cinema and stuff came out. Like I think Eternal Sunshine came out in the 90s.
No, Eternal Sunshine was 2004.
Okay, I'll throw that in my 2000 one, even though I haven't revisited.
Yeah. The third man was 1949. It feels it feels a lot more modern than that.
40s.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's definitely my favorite movie of the 40s.
Yeah.
90s. This is not none of these are my favorite. These are just things I just like. This was what a hard question.
Yeah.
What a devastating question this was.
Yeah.
Dark City.
Oh yeah. Dark City is good. Yeah.
I love Dark City.
Tommy Boy. I don't know. 90s is kind of a dire time for movies.
I don't remember when things came out.
You know what? Total Recall was 1990.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Total Recall's great.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of things we haven't already said, because there's just recency bias. This is a devastating question.
Yeah.
Skip. I skip. Pass.
2000s.
Pass.
2000s to be Synecdoche, New York, and the 2010s, The Endless.
Andy asks, pass. If it's not too late, can you please discuss Arnold Schwarzenegger's discomforting voyeuristic gaze during Jamie Lee Curtis's striptease scene in the film True Lies? It's not too late.
I don't know that I've ever seen True Lies.
Oh, really? True Lies is fun.
Yeah.
Like I
like
snuck into that movie lying and saying I was seeing angels in the outfield.
Ooh.
And then went and saw True Lies instead.
Yeah.
And that is a sexy ass striptease.
Yeah. Good.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Good cast. You got your Tom Arnold and your Tia Carrere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. A duet of pleasures there. Arnold Schwarzenegger just is trying to look horny, but he has that weird kind of blank countenance he gives to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is part of his charm. I don't think it looks that horny. I think it looks very disquieting. In that movie, like you're watching Jamie Lee Curtis striptease and it looks great, and then you just cut over to Arnold Schwarzenegger's weirdly kind of like catfish, like uncomprehending face a little bit.
Yeah.
This was before his now that he's a politician, he just squints all the time. Mm-hmm. So he figured out that's the way to hide the weird blank look.
Yes.
That he has.
Yeah. You know what? I said Tia Carrere on this. Honestly, favorite movie of the 90s might be Wayne's World. Actually,
Wayne's World's a good answer.
Yeah, like a good movie that is also fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a weird look though. I'm glad that Andy noticed it as well.
Yeah.
Did you watch the video in the light of some recent tragedy? Arnold Schwarzenegger put out an inspirational video that did we talk about this? Like about 2/3 of the way through it, he pulls out the sword from Conan and says, "This is Conan's sword."
No, I didn't.
It's really good.
Yeah. Was he just trying to make a point, or was he just trying to keep your attention? Don't look away. I have Conan's sword.
He's jingling. These are Conan's keys. Just he was trying to make a point about standing up to bigotry as like being Conan or something.
Okay.
It was generally like on the right side of stuff, but it was just very funny because he just pulls it out from behind his desk and says, "This is Conan's sword."
Of course,
it's just a really great moment.
Oh man.
Time for topic, and this is a light one.
Yeah.
Folks. You may have noticed we spent extra time on the questions this week, and that's because we have a light topic.
We have a light one. I wanted to. Yeah, I think that this will be light, like a nice like a nice cream pie, or like a whipped topping or what have you, because. Yeah. Chris asks, I guess this is specifically for Gary, though obviously I'd love to hear from Cole as well on this, but you mentioned in the past how you probably have a long form essay in you about the depictions of food in games. Just curious if that ever happened and I missed it. I would love to hear you talk at length about that, as I also think it's one of the more subtly fascinating decisions someone can make when creating a game. And part of the reason why this has been sticking in my mind is because I forget, it was like a recent episode of WAF where we talked about healing, or I think we said, so that this wasn't like Breath of the Wild.
We were talking about demon souls.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
it was take time to eat the herb.
Right. So you have to use go wait for the animation and stuff like that. It's not like you go into the menu and then just gruffle a whole bunch of skewers or what have you. And the idea of food as healing items has always been a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
And like there are all kinds of like aesthetic and mechanical ways that food is just worked into the mechanics and world of a game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The original idea for that they had was thinking about how class is depicted via food in the Dishonored
Yeah.
games. And I feel like that ship has sailed. Like I never wrote about that, but that is now like the discourse is, when I first thought of that, it felt novel to me, but now that's the kind of thing I feel like people think about and recognize as an intentional part of those games.
Can I summarize that very quickly for somebody who might not like off the top of their head
Yes.
now? Yeah.
Of course.
So this is like the idea that when you're in the place, a home dedicated to rich people, there's all kinds of, fruit and vegetables, like fresh meat laying around in the kitchen and stuff like that, like actual, places where servants are preparing food and stuff like that. But if you're in the poorer districts or in the apartments and things, really it's just tinned eel jelly and stuff like that. Lots of canned convenience food kind of stuff.
That is explicitly shown as grosser.
Yeah.
And worse.
The cans are often like rusty and old and stuff. Like this is shit that is just not good.
Yeah. All the cream deal that you eat is not good. And even the fruit ends up being rotten. Like when they have fresh fruit, it looks worse.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of commentary there on class. Like Dishonored games are not about class. Like I don't think that they front side that theme, but it is a little background theme.
Mm-hmm. That's part of the world for sure. Like how miserable it is. I mean, the whole first game is about like the plague that is coming to the city and hitting the most vulnerable first. Then you have like the masquerade and stuff. I feel like it's foregrounded.
Yeah. When by nature of your protagonist, you're constantly crossing that line.
Yeah.
In a way that's actually really similar to Hitman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where you're crossing the line between like kind of high and low culture. Mm-hmm. Through your job. That's something I really respect.
Yes.
In games and is just kind of like what foods people eat as a marker for class is like, again, like I'm not saying I came up with it. When I first thought of that though, it was like the first time it occurred to me, even though now there are tons of like, good YouTube essays about how white trash food parties are classist as hell. And like,
white trash food parties? What the fuck is that?
Well, it's what it sounds like is people do like, hey, let's make a bunch of like good ass food, like Frito pie and stuff. And then just kind of dress up in what we consider to be low class clothes and have a party. Like everybody brings a casserole and a Frito pie and shit.
Yeah. No, you can just, you can just like, rich food if you want. Like you can just have that. It doesn't have to be like a costume party, dudes.
Yeah. You don't have to dress up as a poor person to eat a food. It's ridiculous. And then, it plays into like people, the WIC restrictions, like the food stamp restrictions people have, where it's like, you must have a cheese wheel that is this many ounces, but not more than this many ounces and cannot be cubed by any means because then it's a party.
because then it's a, I wish I didn't know about that. Why did you explain when I asked you?
I live to give. But that's one way that food is used. And is obviously more modern.
Yeah.
Like that's something that like a level of fidelity gives us.
Yes.
And then to your point, like the way that food is used for health is really interesting because abstracting the idea of health shouldn't be difficult. Right.
Yeah.
We have a symbol for it.
Uh-huh.
And there's no reason why Simon Belmont couldn't like whip open a wall and find a first aid kit.
Yeah, then you just said, "Here's a Band-Aid. You can see the Band-Aid, but like specifically a wall ham, right?
Yeah,
here is this joint of ham. Like River City Ransom. You don't go into a doctor. Like there's no like street side clinic that you go into to get to get patched up. No, you go into like a tea shop. And like I'm happy for that in the River City Ransom or like in the more modern version of that, like Yakuza kind of thing, because that definitely does give like a sense of place to it. Like, oh, I'm gonna go in and like go into like this particular restaurant that sells that this is located in a particular place. You kind of
It's
the
like
same
food
thing with like,
tourism.
yeah, food tourism, or like less explicitly, like, not from the tourist angle, but like Grand Theft Auto, where you go into, an XP or Burger King, or like a KFC, or I think even like San Andreas, they actually got a licensing deal from Stuckey's.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I think you do go into Stuckey's
yeah,
there. Yeah, like I like that too. I don't know, it adds a cartoony element to things,
yeah,
that can clash with a certain amount of, realism, but that's not the goal, is not always realism.
yeah.
Like, but what's interesting is I feel like, I'm 100% talking on my ass here, so nobody take this as, researched,
Uh-huh.
but I wonder if the origins of that came with like things like Rogue, or like games where you had to eat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then that just kind of became the semiotic language, because like the earlier examples I can think of, like with like Pac-Man and stuff, they're just points.
Right, right.
There is no health, and it's just it's because they're it's a symbol. It's nice.
Yeah, it is a fun thing to depict in colorful pixel art against this black
Probably
background.
on loan from slot machines.
Yeah, yeah.
The cherry from Pac-Man was probably because of that, and just like, hey, big money cherries.
Yes.
And then maybe it became associated with health through roguelikes. And then there's the kind of cartoony lineage of that carries on in your Yakuzas. But then you end up with like things like Witcher 3, where like if you just gruffle a potato, it gives you a couple health points, but it's not like healing potion.
Yeah. Something that that I genuinely loved, and I have no idea if this is like continued in modern MMOs as they become kind of like more like mechanically streamlined and focused or something, but like back playing EverQuest, which followed on from MUDs, right? So I'm not saying that EverQuest was by any means the first to do this, but you had a crafting system for any number of things. So you could be a blacksmith, you could be a tailor, leather worker, stuff like that, or you could use your resources and your loot and stuff to become like a cook or a brewer, right? And like, yes, that is a fun little flavor thing to do, but like you can actually be really useful to a group or to a guild, because the food that you had, at least early on, you were able to, you had to buy like rations and water, because it would eat those automatically. But like any food that took crafting or a lot of money to get gave really good long lasting buffs. So it was like on top of and beyond, and often like informed by whatever like ingredient you could find on it. So like food that you don't have to eat, but like food that is like specifically there to encourage you to like find other people to play with, who may have like specialized with that. I think that's that was a really fun and good way to like incentivize, playing with other people who might have had a diverse set of, systems they were engaging with. We're not going to go on this raid because so-and-so from this guild, hasn't put together all of the special brewery items that we need to get the buff that'll get us through here. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that stuff is interesting. And you see like lineages of that kind of like specific buffs for specific food stuff in like modern CRPG stuff.
Yeah.
That was in DOS 2. There's also an element of this that part of the reason why this is a light topic is because I don't have that strong of an opinion on a lot of this aspects of this, only some of them. But the movement towards like food pornography,
Final Fantasy 15 or Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, or Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
People just like that, and to me, this is one of those things that I kind of I don't experience, but I understand that it's a thing. Very similar to like a fashion thing.
Yeah.
And if I had to draw the roots of this, it would be not the roots, but like just a common element is like describing food and say Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or
your
like
Redwall. Yeah.
Like they're always just like, oh, this is a onion stew with beef drippings and oxtail gravy and all this stuff, and you're just kind of it's titillating. It's supposed to be kind of a pornography.
Yeah.
And then you do that in your Monster Hunter or what have you, your Final Fantasy 15, and kind of talk about how awesome it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just there to like make you think about something elemental and human, like a Murakami kind of thing. Like you think about food.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks about food. Food is universal.
Food unites us. Yeah.
Yeah. So sure. When I'm playing a video game, I tend to be more wireframe than that. Like I was annoyed by waiting for the cooking animations in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And just wanted to be able to like bake 1,000 apples at once for their mechanical effect. Those games don't tend to be something where I want to slow down and enjoy the food porn part of it. So here, if it's talking about class, not here if it's to make me feel good.
I'm here for world building, in the Yakuza, River City Ransom, Grand Theft Auto style, or one of my favorite things that I love and always make a note of, especially if they pop up in streams, any kind of specifically like pop or soda machine that you see in a world. Too. Oh, the graphic designs on that. Like, do they like try and riff on an existing thing, like an existing pop, or do they make up their
Bebop
own?
Cola.
It's the thing. Mingus do. It's the Thinking Man's pop. Mango Reinhardt.
I love getting a fake video game pop machine next to a fake video game magazine rack.
Oh, yep.
You're in for a good time there.
That's at least a good 45 seconds.
Yeah, just like, I love that shit. Like in terms of a world building thing, I sometimes think about like the fact that I don't have that Fashion Souls gene and I'm not made horny by games and stuff. Like I do have a very kind of hardwired straight ahead set of video game kind of playing things. And I think that a lot of people, there's a lot more bleed.
Yeah.
Like I want to be a little titillated. I want to be a little hungry. I want to be a little, all of these things. And I just don't have that feeling.
Yeah.
So a lot of this food stuff, like I like it as a textual element. Like I like it as what this says about the world directly. I don't want to viscerally experience it though.
No, I mean, all that means is there's just something missing from you.
Yeah. Or there's something missing from everyone else.
Well, yeah.
Would you consider that? But yeah, it just, for me, it's not how I engage with the media.
Yeah.
That might be all I have to say about food and games.
I think so. We said it would be light. We got about 15 minutes out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Light. It's an interesting topic. There's, other people other than us have probably written really good essays about all of these aspects. I'm sure people have written about Final Fantasy 15's food porn obsession. And I'm sure there are I know for sure that there are Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts for any of the vending machines and foods and stuff. So yeah, just like meal, spreads. So we're going to now read your responses to our games we did for April. Here, starting with Divinity Original Sin 2. Sebastian says via contact. On and off watcher, love your stuff. I assume listener. Just wanted to say that it's a shame that in chapter 2, Cole did not go to the upstairs brothel as Fane. Ambush goes on as it does usually, but it starts with the cutthroats going, "God damn it, girl, not another undead," which is pretty which she pretty unabashedly replies that everyone has their kinks. I just found that hilarious.
Oh, not another undead. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just funny how common the undead are ultimately as you go around as Fane, and none of them are related to you.
Yeah. Well, all of them are related to you.
Oh, yeah.
Really, all of them ones that are like sentient and not under control of the king or whatever.
Yeah.
Are basically your family. It's a big family reunion game.
David says via contact, as somebody who grew up outside of the PC gaming sphere, CRPGs are a big hole in my personal gaming history. Aside from KOTOR, if that counts, I think it does. I had never played a CRPG before playing both of the Divinity Original Sin games in the past couple of years. Both of you are coming at Divinity Original Sin 2 with a lot of experience in the genre, so I wanted to point out a few reasons why I think these games are great for CRPG newbies. There isn't a really complicated rule set to learn. The combat is difficult, but the turn-based design allows you to plan your moves carefully and consider what you have at your disposal. The developer mods provide quality of life improvements, and both games heavily reward you for thinking of outside the box solutions. I've since gone back to older games in the genre like Planescape Torment and Shadowrun Dragonfall and loved them, and I have the Divinity Original Sin games to thank. Love the episodes. Keep it up. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear from that perspective, because I look at Divinity Original Sin 2 as like a very complex and let's just say like masterful entry in the genre. So it's good to hear that it is not intimidating to somebody who is, not, coming to the, not from like a place of experience, right? You're not, that's not intimidating.
I get what Andrew David means. It's not like you have to know about second edition D&D rule sets and shit.
Yeah.
For it. I maintain that if you can play Final Fantasy Tactics, you can play Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
Like it is, a move and an action every turn is not that easier than a move point, like an action point economy.
Yeah.
And then once you have an action point economy in your head, you're gravy. You've opened up a lot of really great games.
You can go to so many other things from that.
Yeah. Fallout 2, Wasteland 2. Etc. Alex says via contact, "Oh boy, I've been waiting for you guys to cover this game since the first rumblings of Gary talking about it in other episodes. This could very well be my favorite game, despite me not having finished it. I am 2/3 of the way through my third run-up. I'm British and grew up with Warhammer and Discworld as my fantasy reference points. And to me, Divinity Original Sin 2 really captures the special tone, which is equal parts macabre and silly, and sometimes even touching. It takes itself always exactly as serious as required for the game that it needs to be. As you picked up in the episode, there is an immersive simness to the level of detail put into the mechanics, being consistent both in and out of combat. But it is also not afraid to make gamey design choices when it benefits the game being fun. Magic pockets, for example. The one big gripe I have with the game is that it often felt as if the order in which quests have to be completed was too rigid. I found myself hoovering up little quests I had missed in order to not be severely underleveled. This often made the RPG choice aspect of the game feel less meaningful to me, as I would end up exploring nearly all possible routes in order to keep my XP up. I escaped Fort Joy in about 4 different ways. I can also just be shit at the game. Thank you for putting in the inhuman amount of hours to make that episode as generous as the game itself."
Yeah. As always, we were unable to include every response about this really popular game. Alex is echoing a lot of people's thoughts on this, actually. Kind of the fact that you do end up needing to do a lot of stuff to stay above and with the curve takes away a little bit of the ability to pick and choose that you would.
Yeah. And I 100% get that. For me, the reason why it works in Divinity Original Sin 2, where it works worse in, say, like Deus Ex 2, and that kind of thing, is that the intrinsic and extrinsic rewards are both great. Like, the different routes to escape Fort Joy are all fun to do, and leveling up is really fun and meaningful. So at no point did I not want to do those things.
Yeah, and also, like, we would talk about psychographics a lot. I'm a person who likes doing everything that I can anyway. So that discretion is not necessarily important for me, because I'm not generally going to exercise it an awful lot, in or out of this game, regardless of the demands that it places on me.
What's kind of interesting is I think that, like, if you were going to just play it as a straight shot RP, I escape Fort Joy in one way, it would be pretty balanced if you bump the difficulty down. Like, you could do that and you'd be a little bit less leveled, but you put that on, Explorer storytelling mode, and it probably works.
No.
If I had to guess. And then, tactician mode, there are straight up like guides for what order to do quest in, just to make sure you're eking out every available XP point from the game.
Yeah.
Because you have to. For me, classic mode was somewhere in the middle. I ended up overpowered by the end of the game doing all the quests.
Yeah.
But it's it wasn't my first rodeo as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think we had all benefit of taboos were taken away from the whatever difficulty you tried to choose.
Yeah, it's all fine.
It's all fine.
It doesn't I don't want to play that game on storytelling mode. It doesn't bother me if anyone does, because I'm not an idiot.
And exploration mode is fine.
Exploration mode, I've seen that argued a bunch of places that exploration mode is a lot closer to what a normal game would have for normal. just because it is a tough game. Like the floor is, everything is raised a little bit.
Yeah.
Exploration mode is close to what video games are as normal, and then tactician is more like ultra hard and just a hard mode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Luke writes via contact, I loved my time with Divinity Original Sin 2, but man, I found some of the overarching lore confusing. The most confusing thing to me was that I spent the entirety of my time with the game assuming that the God King was Lucian. You can imagine why this made some of the lore bewildering to me. And while I'm sure I'm largely at fault for this mistake, I feel like I'm not entirely at fault. If you're going to make a character's only name a title, it makes sense that some players will think that it must be the title of another character in the game. Lucian was divine and a king, so it makes sense that if sometimes characters refer to him as the God King. I like to think I have a pretty good reading comprehension. I have an otherwise useless PhD in philosophy, so this was not one of my proudest moments. It wasn't until I listened to your episodes of the show that it clicked for me. The God King is a Satan-like character, not Lucian. I'm now replaying the game. Hopefully it will make more sense to me with this knowledge.
Yeah.
Sticky misconceptions are sticky.
You're talking about law of conservation of detail.
Yeah.
And the game is very long, and they unspool God King stuff very slowly.
Yeah.
The God King is talking to you very early on, but you don't really see that. You don't really know who it is. So it's very easy to jumble two concepts together and just have them together for the remainder, So I totally get that. I also think that it's one of those things where it kind of suffers from being part of a long running series.
Yeah.
That a lot of people aren't going to play.
Yes.
When I said the earlier games didn't seem worth it to my mind, we got some Spirited Defenses back of the earlier games. But at the same time, I think that Larian is probably aware on some level that like these are their big critically acclaimed games that more people are going to play. So having these names kind of come through without having codexes or without being properly introduced is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So William says via contact, first off, I just want to give props to Cole for getting through this game in just a couple of weeks. Divinity Original Sin 2 was on my personal game of the year list 3 years in a row because I needed about a 6-month break between acts. Mostly because it gives you so much freedom that I couldn't help but spend tens of hours digging through each area of the game. I was hooked from the moment I picked up the teleportation gloves in Fort Joy. When I started casting teleport and seeing that I can move to otherwise unreachable locations and even around the fort, bypassing most combat encounters, I couldn't believe how much freedom I had. I would love to see more games take some inspiration and add some more immersive sim elements to other genres. As a side note, and feel free to cut this for time, I discovered that part of the last boss fight seems to be largely skippable. I didn't actually realize there was supposed to be a Kraken until listening to the show, because after Brackus gave his little villain speech during the final confrontation, he moved and was immediately killed by an attack of opportunity by my summon. At which point, all of the dramatic music cut out and has left to pick off the remaining enemies at an anticlimactic silence.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I would have taken an anticlimax as opposed to hours and hours of really frustrating play.
Well, those 2 points that are in that paragraph tie into each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the one of the upsides, there are many upsides, but one upside of that immersive sim element is it's not afraid to let you experience an encounter in not the way the developer absolutely intended.
Yeah.
The developer wanted that to be a big dramatic moment, but you spec'd for something that made the game easier. So this is what would happen. So it's something that did happen.
Yeah.
So which I respect.
I do. Jay writes via contact, a masterful game on just about every front. However,
Dun, dun, dun.
However, a recent attempt at the hardest difficulty of the game, Tactical, highlighted some annoying quirks in the character advancement and level scaling system that made me appreciate the game slightly less, from an A+ game to merely an A. Think about how in Baldur's Gate 2, you could find a cool ring with a cool effect in your first few hours that you would still have equipped 50 hours later. In Original Sin 2, your gear is a procession of nondescript stat sticks that transmute into vendor trash every other character level. Midway through Act 2, it began to feel less like my guys were getting stronger as individuals, and more like they were arbitrarily being granted access to swords, shields, and helmets with higher numbers than their current swords, shields, and helmets. You can see an attempt to fix this with the bonus Relics of Rivellon content that introduces item sets with interesting quests, interesting history, and interesting effects. Until, sadly, their numbers also get outclassed by the randomly generated rags that you find in crates and barrels, and at the crate and barrel. He didn't put that last part in, but I did.
Cole is just doing some buzz marketing.
Yeah,
Send him a cheese.
Send me a cheese. Yeah. Cheese coffin. I've not touched or even looked at Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm hoping that Larian leans more on the classic Baldur's Gate model of gear design instead of Original Sins. Make me care about the name of my boots.
I think this is a good criticism. I think that there is a Band-Aid patch for this in the game that is not explained ever, which is that you can use the Sorceress Sundry's sisters to level things up to your level. And the Fletcher will level up things in his inventory to your level. Nice. So you can, if you have a unique set that you like, you can carry that to the end of the game if you want and make it competitive. Yeah. By putting in resources. That is definitely a Band-Aid. I'm not saying that excuses it as a problem, because I agree that it is having to keep up with the gear grind with every level would be obnoxious. Yeah. And I understand that tactical demands that.
Yes. The fact that Baldur's Gate 3 is based on the actual D&D system makes me think that gear is going to work like gear does in D&D. And not be as, plus % damage as DOS 2 is. Yeah,
definitely. Even though I haven't played a lot of 5th edition, so I'm not sure. Hopefully.
Oh, man, that would be such a nightmare to do at the table.
Just like, hey, everybody switch out your stuff. Yeah. This guy is selling a plus 40% frost damage. Yeah. They went guy plus 38s. Hannah says via contact, I want to start by saying I love the show. I migrated over from Bonfireside Chat, the best podcast of all time. Oh. Thank you, Hannah. I'm so happy you're discussing Divinity Original Sin 2 because it is the best role-playing game experience in terms of role-playing that I've experienced in video games. I came to this game having heard that it was the closest experience to a tabletop RPG you can find in video games, which immediately piqued my interest. Well, in retrospect, I think the person who said that might have been talking about playing as the developer designed characters. This story is about my experience creating my own character. One thing I often find difficult in video game RPGs is actually role-playing. While I made sure to temper my expectations with Divinity Original Sin 2, this still needs to be scripted after all, I decided to go in with a fairly specific idea of who my character was, her personality, her motivations, etc. I modeled her after Shalyn Devar from Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, if you're familiar. Would the game allow me to really be this character I had in my head and express that in game? Or would it mostly have to be relegated purely to my imagination with no in-game impact? Given my somewhat tempered expectations, Divinity Original Sin 2 did not disappoint. Shalyn's character fits very well with the Scholar and Jester tags. These, along with the nuance of the other dialogue options and my own discernment, allow me to express the further nuances of her character in a way that I haven't found possible in any other game. That ruled. After 100 hours of gameplay, I'd finally finished, and I do unfortunately have to admit that I felt a bit burnt out on the game before I crossed the finish line. Nevertheless, the first thing I did after credits rolled was start up a new game. Okay, let's see who else this game lets me be.
The tag system is really powerful.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I never made a custom character. I just relied on whatever the, the pre-made ones came with, which is good because those are all, very well developed characters who are integrated with the world and what have you. But even just seeing the dialogue options that were open from having one tag or the other was really neat. And I could see how that would be a good time, even if you were just rolling a blank slate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just, what it's interesting to think about role-playing games in terms of the ability to role-play. Mm-hmm. In them. There's a lot of things that have been read about that, but that's a topic suggestion that we'll do at some point because somebody threw down the gauntlet. It's like, hey, what's a role-playing game? Define that. Like, fuck if I know, because it's gotten so muddy. Yes, in Final Fantasy IV you are Cecil. Mm-hmm. So you are playing a role, but the playing part of it is kind of limited in terms of what you're doing in terms of playing that role, right, or control over that role, and then you end up with your BioWares, like your Mass Effects and such, where you are playing, a character of a sort, but you're choosing between 3 lanes because it still has to be, programmed. So it's a, the ability to role play in a video game is something that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes find, a correlation between my favorite games and games that allow what feels like that. Even if it's down to things like Bloodlines,
Yeah.
or Deus Ex, which it's like, it does feel like I'm able to, I always play Deus Ex as a pacifist who, once he learns that he's used, take no prisoners. And that ends up working really well. The game supports it and comments on it.
Yeah.
So that is something that DOS 2 does, and something that I also value.
Yeah. Moving on to responses about Riven. Craig says via contact, Myst and Riven were two of my formative PC gaming experiences as a kid, though I might have been too young for either upon their release. Looking at Riven now as an adult, it's pretty cool how much it diverges from what you might think of a 90s point-and-click adventure game. Riven has all of two puzzles, the Animal Sounds puzzle and the Colored Marbles puzzle, and the rest of the game is about exploring an unfamiliar world and figuring out its rules. There's a lot of density in that discovery, and I don't blame anyone who bounced off of it. I used a guide to beat it, but it's a big swing that I think more or less hit its target. How cool is it that you learn Riven's numeric system in a children's school, or that you have to trick again using knowledge of prison books that he doesn't know? And most importantly, how cool was it that the physical release of the game was a whopping 5 discs? It's one of the least gamey video games I can remember playing, and I commend Cyan for that. Someday I'll go back and finish Abduction.
All those things are cool, except that it was released on 5 discs.
Yeah, that sucks, and it's good that was almost immediately fixed with the introduction of DVDs.
and it's not like, I played Gabriel Knight 2 released on many discs.
Yes.
So I know how that is, but just that downtime of switching discs is not something
it's
that I'm
cool
willing to round into the... It's bad, so it's good.
Yeah, no, it's cool that it probably shipped in a sweet box,
Yes.
Like, I will give you that.
Yeah. And it's a clever conceit, like one disc per island.
Yeah.
Which would work with if the game was less ambitious, if there was not these overarching puzzles, but if the islands were self-contained.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd almost be like episodes. And that would be cool.
Yeah.
But all those other things that you mentioned are very cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. Brad says via contact, I was 10 and the only computer games at my grandparents' house were a Magic School Bus Adventure and Riven. They had the 5 CD set with the individually illustrated disc sleeves and the packed-in merch catalog. And there's a link here. You can look those things up if you like. They hinted at content I wouldn't actually find in the game for years. Since my grandparents lived on the other side of the state, I would go weeks or months between visits to Riven, eventually printing out a universal hint system set of pages to take with me so I could make a little progress each time. It took a lot of patience, but my dad and I solved a surprising amount of the game on our own. I still consider it one of my favorite gaming experiences. Having played every Myst anything now, I still love Riven for its coherence. I love how the small puzzles teach you things that enable you to solve the larger ones, which you eventually combine to solve a major puzzle near the end of the game. Layered puzzles like this are something that I seek out in games now, often finding them in cruel difficulty indie puzzlers like Starseed Pilgrim and A Good Snowman is Hard to Build. I appreciate any recommendations you for games with this property. Anyway, thank you for covering one of my favorite games. I hope you cover Uru someday. It might be out of suffering material since parts of it are such a slog, but second expansion hides some of the best puzzles in the Myst canon.
Yeah.
What do you think, Cole? Doing Uru?
I mean, for Abject Suffering, sure. It's easy enough to get
would
a hold
it
of.
end up being a boring Abject Suffering where you just kind of explain to me why it's bad and good?
Probably.
And I'm just like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Can I talk about something I saw on a walk?
Yeah. Why would anybody make a game that feels like this? Yeah. It would probably end up feeling exactly like that. Yeah. Maybe.
In terms of games that have that building thing, those layered puzzles, that's very common right now. Taking the constituent parts and building on them. So like if A Good Snowman is Hard to Build counts as this for you, then I'm sure you would also like Baba Is You and
Steven's
Sausage-Roll. Yeah. Which are similar.
Yeah.
In kind of vibe. So but yeah, that's a neat experience. The idea of just playing a game every couple of years, or every couple of months.
Yeah.
Picking at it.
Yeah, several weeks between my visits to Riven. I'm sure your grandparents still enjoyed that.
Yeah, my grandparents, Riven and their keepers.
The keeper of the discs.
Yeah, the people who own Riven. Like,
moving on to Ratchet and Clank into the Nexus responses. Sean says via contact. Sean is the patron who produced that episode. I was really excited that I got the opportunity to sponsor an episode of WAF because I feel like 3D platformers often get short shrift, and the Ratchet and Clank series are an example of how to do them well. I chose Into the Nexus because I found it to be a nice bite-sized version of the series as a whole. It's got a lot of cool weapons, my favorites being the Nightmare Box and, of course, Mr. Zircon. It's got big levels that constantly have you cover new ground and have lots of little secret areas. And it's got the gorgeous visuals and first-rate voice acting. Oh, and a jetpack and hover boots. Playing again this time, it struck me how much the game whittles off most of the extra features that made A Crack in Time a certified epic. While it doesn't have the larger scale story or the excellent shipped combat, it trades it for a smaller package that feels like a great entry point for the series. If you guys enjoyed this, I'd hugely recommend every mainline entry on the series, which I played through again a couple of years ago. It's a shame that the games before the movie tie-in haven't gotten a proper PS4 or PS5 remaster, and might be lost once the PS3 library goes offline. I hope y'all covering this will help some people experience it for the first time or just get curious. As always, I love the show and keep up the good work. Can't wait to sponsor another episode. Thank you for sponsoring that, Sean, and thank you for the response.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I can imagine a mindset, like I can't predict the future and you're a different person every year, and I don't know like whether in the future that will change. Right now, this is a little lightweight for me.
Yeah.
In terms of going deep dive, like I like this as a snack, but I don't want to eat as much junk food.
Yeah.
Not in a pejorative way, like, there's a place for that. But I could definitely imagine, the same way I imagine a future where I'm like, I'm going to sit down and just play all the Spiderweb software games.
Yeah.
It's my Avernum year or whatever. There's probably, I can also imagine a future in which I'm like, you know what? Let's Ratchet and Clank it, baby.
Yeah.
Let's learn about the space cat and all his tragedies.
Yeah. I laughed really loud when you said that because you said, because my taste changed, and then you said, and you're a different person every year, like you were speaking specifically to me, not to just like the general, like the royal you.
I'm gerrymandering you into a Philip K. Dick experience.
Yep, and you're a different person every year.
Yeah, now you're a different Seinfeld every year. Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean. Like, there's limited value, I think, in like trying to guess about the future because I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I could not have predicted that I ended up where I did.
Right.
But yeah, what a great game and what a great palate cleanser it was, though, in terms of just placement.
Absolutely.
Like, that felt great.
Yeah. And I was happy to dip back into it. I mean, it had been 15 years since I played Up Your Arsenal. So
yeah, there's been a lot of advancements.
Yeah.
Doug says via contact, Ratchet and Clank always brings me back to a childhood memory long before the first game came out. I was 9 and we were on a long family road trip through the Southwest. I'm not sure why, but for some reason we weren't able to make or stop for a normal breakfast. My parents decided that just for one morning, we would make do by eating bags of candy we had purchased from one of our previous destinations. Given my normally highly responsible parents, this was a rare treat. That morning, chomping down on gummy worms somewhere in Utah or Colorado in the backseat has stayed with me. Playing a Ratchet and Clank game is a lot like that morning. There's no nutritional value, but every so often that's okay. I'm sure I'll play the new one when it comes out, even though it's the same junk food I've had many times before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Well put.
There's a place for junk food,
A well-balanced diet contains a few candy breakfasts.
Yeah. A person who denies himself candy is weird. You know?
If you're not having a candy breakfast 3 times a week, weird flex.
Or if you're not just eating something for fun every once in a while,
Yeah. That's the non-exaggerated version of what I actually think.
Yeah. Candy. All candy breakfasts.
Yeah. And you do those on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then Sunday's your cheat day where you have double candy. And
it's good to do it weird.
Sunday's your cheat day where you eat an egg. And
Because in a weird situation where it's like, okay, you kids finish your Sundays. Ah,
yeah, why doesn't anyone like my Sundays? It's funny, like looking at this comment because, and this is not me tragedy porning my life or whatever.
okay.
That happened to me a lot, not for fun reasons.
Just because
Where-
that's the food that was out and available
Yeah.
and ready for you.
Yeah, like living in a hotel for a little while, and like my mom buying cinnamon pinwheel swirls,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like those cookies that have a little fruit in the middle, as the
Like a-
closest
like
thing
a
to
Newton?
food for breakfast because
Yeah.
she could get it from the vending machine
Oof.
at the hotel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm not trying to shame Doug. Like, you know,
Yeah.
some people eat candy for breakfast because they're not in good.
Yeah,
know,
you actually.
I'm not. That's not my intent at all. I just gave me that memory.
Doug gave you horrible flashbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, and getting older, I'm getting thinner skin about that stuff. It's not like thinner skin in terms of other people making fun of it, but it's been making me more sad when I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bummer.
Yep.
And on that note,
Well, no, we got one more here. This is a trauma center.
well, that
second
was the joke.
Oh,
I
yes. On that note, on thin skin note, because you can cut through it real easy. What?
sure.
Okay, sure. No, we have a response about Trauma Center. Sam wrote in via contact saying, I know this is late, but since we're often getting responses for Trauma Center, I figured I'd send one in. I was way into the series during the Wii days, and you'll be happy to know that the sequels ease up on the difficulty and take a little longer before the sci-fi stuff starts to show up. Also, in Trauma Team, you get to use a Wii remote to pretend you're giving a colonoscopy.
Hey.
Hey kids.
Yeah. Heyo.
They maybe aren't different enough to do WAF episodes, but I'd highly recommend New Blood and Trauma Team in general. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Yeah.
I've been back on my Will Hughes tip of like games I'm vaguely interested in, but I don't know if I'll ever play. Just reading the synopses and shit on TV tropes.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, I was like, I'm going to learn some of the lore behind the Five Nights at Freddy's games because I'm never going to play those. But the fact that there's tons of lore is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
And the initial concept is kind of interesting to me. And, you know, it's like before bed and it's 20 minutes before like I can't be conscious. And like, you know, I'm deeply gummied or deeply Z-quilled or what any of the drugs I take to go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, this seems good.
Yeah.
I'm going to read about this.
No, I don't know. That's like a Will Hughes thing, and that's like a me thing. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I've never,
Maybe I will.
not done that like in the decade since I've been reading TV tropes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess the thing that's new is taking like doing it not just for stuff I already know or things I like, but doing it as a substitute for games in a series that I might not play.
Right.
You know, like Will Hughes's underscore trick is to learn, like he waits for the Wikipedia entries for movies to come out for like most new movies.
Gotcha.
And like wants to know their plot, you know, if he's not going to see them.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I'm cool not knowing, you know, what happens in the Melissa McCarthy superhero movie.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
We need to get through the end of this real quick because the Derek Chauvin announcement's going to be, or verdict is going to be announced at 4:30.
Oh.
Or in 6 minutes. So,
and look out, because when that happens, our internet's going to go down. Let's announce, we're announcing next month, or not next month, June.
yes.
If you have the things to say about May, which is Hitman 3, Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, hit us up at Duckfeed.tv/contact. And our games for June are...
Yes, the games for June are, we're opening up with a Gary Vanity pick, Hotline Miami.
Yeah. Why I like this game. I want to talk about it for a long time in a long form session, and the soundtrack absolutely slaps, and I have it on vinyl. It's very good.
It's good.
The next one is a patron pick. Next two. The next game we're doing after that is The Witness.
Yes.
Solving the cryptic hints I've said about doing another kind of like difficult puzzle game that's very different than what we're doing. I'm interested in, you know, as much as I don't like Jonathan Blow, I am excited to try it.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. By no means will that episode be all inclusive. I'm not 100%ing this.
Nope. I'll read about this.
by-
I'll read about the big stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100%ing it. And it's also, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about like in this puzzle, there's dots. You know, like we're going to talk about
It's
lots of generalities.
It's very well set up and compartmentalized, where different areas have like a pronounced gimmick that it like explores very thoroughly. So
yeah, and we're going to talk about that gimmick and not so much how it explores it, because describing those puzzles on an audio podcast sounds like the most boring thing in the world.
It does.
To me, both in terms of doing it and listening to it. I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about the experience of playing The Witness to the degree that we want to play The Witness.
Yes.
You know, mostly.
Finally. Oh, good. Sorry.
In which we've, just so it doesn't sound like we're screwing over a patron.
Right.
We mentioned to Simon, like, we're going to do
our
best. And that's,
Yeah. And finally, the premium episode for June, June, is going to be Super Mario 3D World. It is off of the Wii U on a system that people actually own, and this game owns. It's really good.
It's great.
And I'm super excited to gush about it.
I've been working on my Night Mario. I'm playing a few levels every night, and I love it. Yep. And we're also going to do, for people who are going to ask eventually, we are going to talk a little bit about Bowser's Fury. We're not going to cover it in detail.
Yep.
But I've been poking at it, or I played actually quite a bit of it. I will beat it probably just for fun before then, and we at the very least will talk about it in generalities.
Yeah,
so
it's neat. So if you have thoughts about those, write in by June the 15th. Again at Duckfeed.tv/contact. As always, if you have thoughts about multiple games, separate them. We prefer brief responses, about 2 paragraphs apiece, and we like kind of novel observations as opposed to broad reviews.
And you can support us on patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcast or Podcast Addict or wherever you find reviews, and you can take care of yourself. And we'd like all those things.
Please do. Yeah. I think that's everything.
That's it. We will see you next week talking about Hitman 3, World of Assassination wrapped up.
Umbasa.